Yeah, it's Friday already. And boy, what a way to end the week. You know, if you don't think you're on the government's radar for activities related to stockpiling food, ammunition, guns, and other things, think again. You know, I get such mixed messages from the government because, on the one hand, they always want to put out little brochures saying things like, you know, in case of an emergency, especially if you're in something like a hurricane or earthquake zone, in case of emergencies, you need to have a certain amount of food and supplies to be able to survive. So then when people go out and stockpile stuff up, you think that the government would be happy that they're stockpiling supplies to be able to protect themselves and their loved ones. Well, apparently not. You know, you've got just here the other day, 3 men in North Carolina were arrested by federal agents. They are accused of stockpiling guns and ammunition, as well as attempting to manufacture pipe bombs. Well, now the pipe bombs I kind of understand. I mean, you know, what are you going to use pipe bombs for? Well, even in case of an emergency situation, I can see where it might not be a bad idea to have something like that, or at least know how to do it. I mean, if you don't have any gas and you need to chop some trees down or something like that, you know, you might do something like that, you know, taking stumps out of the ground. You know, farmers and ranchers all across the nation do that. But the thing that got me is it says they are accused. This is their, you know, this is what they were saying. They are accused of stockpiling guns and ammunition. This is a statement by acting U.S. District Attorney Jill Westmoreland Rose and FBI Special Agent in Charge John Strong. Well, the thing you got to wonder about is, first off, who determines how much is a stockpile? I mean, okay, you know, you always read these things where you have these people that get arrested and, oh, they had a stockpile. Well, they had like, you know, 2 or 3 guns and 2 or 3 rifles, maybe a shotgun. So exactly how much is a stockpile? And why were they stockpiling it? I mean, they just recently had a guy out in California that died, and when they went into his house, he had over 1,000 guns. Some of them still boxed up, never even been opened. Now, I would say 1,000 guns is indeed a stockpile. So exactly how much? And, you know, is there an actual law somewhere that says that, well, 24 guns is not a stockpile, but 25 guns is a stockpile? Because I've never seen or heard anything about how much is a stockpile. How many bullets is stockpiling bullets? I mean, right now, you can't hardly get any 22 ammo because everybody is stockpiling 22 ammo. I mean, I myself, I have probably about like 200 or 300 rounds, but that's just enough to go out and have fun with. When you're talking 22s, man, you go out and go plinking, you run through 100 rounds in a heartbeat. In case of some sort of national disaster or emergency, the bullets you have might be the only ones you ever have, in which case, for somebody to have 1,000 rounds of ammunition may not seem that excessive. Well, the main charges, of course, are their involvement in building explosive devices. But the report does say that the men are accused of stockpiling weapons and ammunition, which in and of itself is not a crime. Federal agents are on the lookout for individuals or groups making bulk purchases of a variety of supplies, including ammunition, MREs, meals ready to eat, and gas masks. So, yeah, we're not advocating, building, testing, or storing of explosives. But the problem is that this shows once more that if word gets out that you're doing, prepper activities, which may be suspicious in nature, suspicious to who? That's always the question. No matter how innocent what you're doing is, there's always somebody that's going to deem it suspicious. But the problem is that just saving up stuff in case of an emergency. Are we now supposed to expect armed federal agents to show up in droves, kicking down our doors for lawful activities? You have to start wondering about some of those type things when you start having, the government overreaching things like the EPA. The EPA, known as the most hated agency in the federal government. Well, last Wednesday, the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers have been trying to instigate a new regulation involving the Clean Water Act. Opponents have labeled the rule as a massive power grab by the Obama administration that could give federal officials authority over every creek, puddle, even dent in your land that, when it rains, might hold water for a day or two. This has been such a blatant move that even some of the Democrats in the Senate and 24 in the House have joined the GOP in opposition. But that still leaves them far from the 2/3 majorities that are needed for a veto-proof vote to overturn the rule. But they still decided to use the Congressional Review Act to show opposition to Obama's action. And of course, immediately the administration questions the motive of opponents. The only people with reason to oppose the rule are polluters who want to threaten our clean water, said Brian Deese, Obama's top environmental advisors. That's where they immediately go. They're overstepping the law, and they know it, but they immediately want to say, what's the matter? Don't you want clean air for the children? Don't you want clean water for the children? That's the problem. So often it's an either or choice, just like Obama was doing with the Iran sanctions. Well, we either give in or it's total war. No, we could just ramp up the sanctions a little bit more. And with this, it's either you've got the dirtiest, filthiest air and water on the planet, or we have to totally give in to them. Well, there again, the politicians, even the Democratic politicians, are starting to see the fallacy of that. The Senate bill would overturn the water rule and give the EPA specific instructions and a deadline for writing it in a way that senators hope would cover fewer bodies of water and impede less on private and state property rights. Farmers and ranchers have been among the most vocal opponents of the water rule, saying it would mandate expensive permits and federal review for common agricultural tasks, just like digging a ditch. But as per usual, this is a way for the federal government to have more say over what we do. Another example of how that the federal government tries to do things, overstep their lawful bounds. President Obama continues to take bold steps of action that reveal his true feelings towards Israel. Yep, he's continues to make things worse by warning Israel not to invade Gaza and then slamming them when they do, placing the blame for Palestinian casualties on Israel rather than on Hamas. Well, when it seems like Obama couldn't possibly make his dislike for Israel any clearer, Obama decided to place an FAA ban on flights in and out of the country, essentially cutting off Israel from the outside world. Well, this move angered many conservatives and Israeli supporters, such as Senator Ted Cruz. In fact, Senator Cruz appeared on Sean Hannity's Fox News program and announced that since the State Department was refusing to answer his questions related to the ban and the Obama administration's funding of Hamas, he was going to hold up all State Department nominees till they cooperated. Is the Obama administration giving $47 million that will go to Hamas, who's actively trying to kill civilians while simultaneously imposing millions of dollars of economic harms on our friend and ally, Israel? The State Department needs to answer these questions, and I announced today that in response to that refusal to answer from the State Department, I intend to hold all State Department nominees until they answer these questions. Congress deserves to know, and the American people deserve to know, was this politics from the White House, or is this an airline safety decision? And I think the facts strongly suggest that it was politics in an effort to strong-arm the nation of Israel. Well, not long after Ted Cruz made this announcement, the FAA ban was suddenly lifted. Well, it seems that Senator Cruz was absolutely correct in assuming the FAA ban was political. You know, Israel is perhaps the only ally that America has in the Middle East, and to damage that relationship puts us at an extreme disadvantage when it comes to foreign policy in that region of the world. And Ted Cruz is one of the few that will stand up. In fact, I want to say he's the only one that cowboys up for them, because he's not afraid to put it on the line, to stand up and tell it like it is, even to Obama. We've got some more news about Ted Cruz coming up after the break in a few more minutes that I think a lot of people here in the Chattanooga Valley area are going to really be interested in, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, of course, we've been talking a little bit about the clean air plan that's been going on. In January of 2008, Barack Obama told the San Francisco Chronicle, under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Barack Obama's word, skyrocket. Yes, businesses would have to retrofit their operations, and that will cost money, and they will most certainly pass that cost on to consumers. So that means that not only will the cost of the electricity itself go up, but the cost of goods throughout the country would go up, as they have to pay an increased cost and pass it along to us. Well, he wasn't kidding. It took him a few years to get around to it. But on Saturday, Barack Obama announced his new energy plan that will squeeze energy companies and force consumer prices to necessarily skyrocket. You know, and what's kind of funny is that in response to the announcement of this plan, where President Obama and the EPA are about to, raise the rates enormously, in his own words, skyrocket, the city of Chattanooga decided to have a festival. In fact, we might as well call it a rally to support this national effort to reduce climate-disrupting emissions from existing power plants, which is called the Clean Power Plan. But, of course, the problem is that, ironically, they're having this festival tomorrow from 10 to 2 in Highland Park, which is in the neighborhood where some of the city's less prosperous people live. And they're the very ones that are going to have the hardest time coming up with the extra money to pay for this plan. But of course, never let facts get in the way of a good feel-good moment. Well, yesterday, again, Senator Ted Cruz. Today's Ted Cruz Day, incidentally. Senator Ted Cruz said yesterday that Obama's new EPA plans are flatly unconstitutional. Senator Cruz said the president's lawless and radical attempt to destabilize the nation's energy system is flatly unconstitutional and unless it is invalidated by Congress, struck down by the courts, or rescinded by the next administration, will cause Americans' electrical costs to skyrocket at a time when we can least afford it. I urge leaders of both parties, including Democrats, who represent communities that will be devastated by this reckless policy, Andy Burke, to stand up against this administration's dangerous agenda of economic decline. Well, people might say, well, what are you talking about? How's it going to be bad? I mean, clean air, woohoo, yeah, that's good. Everybody wants clean air. Well, but like they say, the devil is in the details. This plan, which would overhaul America's energy system, is striving to reduce carbon emissions from 2005 levels when they had already been some of the strictest in the world. They want to reduce by a further 32% by 2030. Well, that sounds good. What would be wrong with doing that? Well, the problem is that we're already so close to the edge in what is possible to do. We've got coal plants that have scrubbers, as they call them, on their smokestacks to take pollutants out of the air and other things that they're doing. That even to get a very small percentage increase is going to cost millions, no, not millions, billions of dollars more for extremely small success rates. The Clean Power Plan is only going to avert close to 0.02% of a degree of future warming over the course of this century, Chip Koppenberger, assistant director to the Cato Institute, said. What the EPA doesn't like to advertise is what the mitigation will be. Mitigation, that means how much it's going to cost and how many job losses are going to result. In fact, in June, Representative Lamar Smith of Texas asked the EPA Administrator, Gina McCarthy, to justify the cost of regulations. Do you consider 1/100th of a degree to be an enormously beneficial? And she said, well, it's not that the value of the rule is being measured in that way. It's being measured in showing strong domestic action, which can produce global action. The problem is that the other nations aren't interested in following our example. I mean, Knoppenberger said that, frankly, I think that climate change is sort of a first world problem. We have the luxury of having plenty of electricity, whereas in the developing world, where 1.3 billion people currently don't have any access to electricity at all, they're more worried about increasing their standard of living and increasing the human progress in those countries. Even if the current national target and the plans are not a sufficient contribution to hold global temperature increases below 2 degrees Celsius, it shows that the world's second largest emitter is taking action at home to reduce emissions, while the rest of the world goes, they don't care what we're doing. They're too busy building new plants that don't have near the technology that we do. We should not have to pay for their excesses, and the EPA is strictly using this as a showboat via Barack Obama. We need more people to cowboy up and tell them, not here, not now. We'll be back after these commercial words with more Cowboy Up with Tex.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece. Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece to the perfect affordable handcrafted gem. From just $20 silver earrings to your dream elegant work of art to adorn your finger, neck, and wrists, impressing your friends and family, Arnie Guest Goldsmith will ensure that your budget is met. Planning the perfect wedding or special event? Then let Arnie Guest Goldsmith assist you in choosing or designing the keepsake that will last you a lifetime. All of Arnie Guest Goldsmith repairs and crafting are done in-house, so you can be rest assured that it will meet or exceed your expectations. For over 30 years, Arnie Guest Goldsmith has served Chattanooga with the finest jewelry and services, meeting only the highest quality and standards. So the next time you think of jewelry, custom design, remounting, appraisals, or repairs, remember Arnie Guest Goldsmith. And please visit Arnie Guest Goldsmith at 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. That's 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. Call 875-2390. That's 875-2390. Or go to jewelryfromscratch.com. That's all one word, jewelryfromscratch.com. Jewelryfromscratch.com. Arnie Guest Goldsmith of Chattanooga.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
with the second half of Cowboy Up with Tex. Yeah, end of the week. Got hopefully a nice weekend ahead for everybody. We had a little bit of interesting weather yesterday as we had a little small front move through, but hopefully the weekend coming up is going to be pretty nice and everybody can get out, either get some good yard work done or maybe go hiking or camping or go to a festival or something like that. Well, one of the things that's going to be kind of interesting is of course, like I was saying, they're doing this climate festival tomorrow. And one thing that I want to point out to everybody is part of cowboying up is that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing right. And that's the problem is that so much of what comes out of Washington, D.C. is, first off, not worth doing. But even then, even when their heart is in the right place, they don't do it in the right way. Throw too much money at it, be heavy-handed. Well, this Clean Power Plan is a good example of that. Their hearts might be in the right place, but they're going about it in the wrong way, and they're doing it in the wrong fashion. They did not take it before Congress. They did not take it before the House. They're just trying to ram it down our throats via executive order, and that's the wrong way to do it. If it's worth doing, do it the right way, the legal way, the constitutional way. Well, of course, last night we had the Republican debate where we had a number of people on Fox TV, Fox News, where they were introducing us to a number of the different candidates for the 2016 presidential race. Frankly, I thought the big loser of the evening was Fox News. I thought I was watching CNN or MSNBC, the way that the Fox News anchors were handling the show. They were being very disrespectful, very combative towards the people that were on the show. People like Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, you had Dr. Ben Carson. They were so blatant in their bias that you could tell who they were for and who they were against strictly by the way they were asking the questions. You know, some people got relative softball questions, and some people got questions that were bordering on disrespectful in just the way they were said. You know, these news reporters, the debate moderators, they had plenty of time to figure out exactly how to ask the question. They were able to practice how the questions were going to be asked. So when they ask the questions in a certain way, you know that it's so that they can get a certain response. And if they don't get the exact response they want, then they can start going after the candidates for the response that they did get. But I will say, the vast majority of people were able to get as good as they got and stand up to them. So one of those was, in fact, Ted Cruz. In fact, it looks like we've got... Hello, caller.
Hi, is this Greg?
Yes. Is this Kevin?
This is Kevin Cookagee from the Cruz campaign. How are you?
Great. I was actually just giving your lead in. So talking about Ted Cruz on the debates last night. And, you know, of course, as most of my listeners know, I am indeed from Texas, and I am a big Ted Cruz fan. And
I noticed that in your email. I'm for Texas.
That's right. That's right. So I've lived here in Chattanooga for almost 20 years now, but one thing about Texans, there's never a used to be Texan.
Yeah.
So
I picked that up.
So, but So, it was very interesting watching Ted be able to more than hold his own last night. I was just telling the audience that I thought that the moderators were being a little unfair in how they approached several of the different candidates, but that, Ted Cruz held his own easily against them. And one of the neat things is that Ted Cruz is actually fixing to be here in Chattanooga.
Yes, and how exciting is that, right? Last night, by the way, I think most people realize that they cut Cruz off, didn't give him nearly the amount of time that we would have liked. But as you saw, in the little time that he was given, he did more than his share of defending not only himself, but defending American order. And that's why we support him.
Oh, yeah.
And I think those results came clear. If you saw any of the media today, Cruz got a lot of good marks, and he got by the Luntz panel. I don't know if you saw that on Fox afterwards, but so I was tickled that even with the brevity of time that he still made his case and defended himself well, and I think that bodes well for the future, because that, as you know, last night was a little bit of a circus debate, not a real substantive debate. So
that's for sure.
But yes, Chattanooga. Let's talk about Chattanooga.
Yes. So this coming Monday from 8:30 a.m. to 10-ish, I think it is. They're going to be having a sausage and biscuit breakfast that Mr. Cruz is going to be at. And that's going to be, now they have changed the location. Some of the people might have seen an earlier invite. The location has been changed. And could you give us that new location?
I was hoping, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't even have the address with me in front of me. But I can get that for your listeners. Stephen, who you've spoken with, will send that to you. It's been changed to a church. The church is about a mile from where the terrorist shootings happened.
Right.
I can't remember the name of the church, but we'll get you that address so you can, as soon as I get off this call, so you can let your listeners know. But the event is free. Everybody just has to RSVP, so we have a count, and so we know for security purposes. But otherwise, come, bring friends and family. And we changed the venue, as you can probably imagine, because we got such great response. And so we're bursting at the seams a little bit all across the state of Tennessee, in fact.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Actually, for those that are listening right now, if you've been here in Chattanooga for a while, if you remember where the McKay's bookstore used to be on Lee Highway, right off of 153, right next door to that is a small entrance that goes up the hill to that church, and that's where the venue is going to be. So that's right next door to the old McKay's.
It'll be fantastic.
So
coming through. He's in Georgia today, tomorrow. He'll be in Alabama on Sunday, and then up into Tennessee on Monday, and a little bit on Tuesday afternoon in Memphis. But yeah, we've got some amazing numbers all across the state of Tennessee, and every day the RSVPs continue to grow, and this is the momentum that we expected. Tennessee is definitely cruise country, and I think a lot of people are going to understand that after Monday. It's going to get a lot of coverage.
Yeah, and of course, the more that he's on the national scene, the more people are appreciating him, especially when he is one of the few that will stand up to the Republican leadership, which is just being marionettes for the Democrats right now.
Absolutely, Greg. You know that, and I think your listenership probably knows that. But now more of the American people are going to get a chance to take a real good look at Senator Cruz. 24 million people last night, in fact, and realize that Senator Cruz has America's best interests in mind. There is no more consistent conservative. He's not, as he said last night, he's not merely a campaign conservative. A lot of guys can sound good in sound bites on a television show or for brief moments, but Ted Cruz's record is consistently conservative. From fighting Obamacare to protecting the Second Amendment to defending religious liberty on national security and immigration, you go down the line, and he has been an advocate for American liberty, for American order, and for the defense of our sovereignty for his entire political career.
And he's done all of that when it wasn't always to his political benefit. And that's one of the things I really like about him. Of course, the name of the show here is To Cowboy Up with Tex, and to cowboy up means to stand up for what's right, to do what's right, even when it might not be the smartest thing to do, but you do it because it is right, because it is the right thing to do. And that's one thing about Ted Cruz. He has stood up several times to speak his mind, to do what is right, even when it cost him politically.
Exactly. And we call that moral courage, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And there's an old Scottish poet by the name of Charles Mackay who said that he who mingles in the fray of duty must have foes. If he has none, small is the work that he has done. And so I think that Ted Cruz is doing big work because he has a lot of foes who are afraid of losing their power, not foes in the American people, but foes in the political sphere.
Yeah. And, you know, and the sad part of that is that way too many of his foes are other Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Oh, and I was going to say, and, you know, and that's one of the things is that he is in the forefront of demanding change within the party itself, instead of just another go along to get along Republican, or as we call them, rhinos.
Exactly. And I think that's why, Greg, I think that's why you see so much fighting against Cruz at this point, because the Republican establishment understands that if Cruz wins the presidency, their days are over. Their days of doing things behind closed doors and their days of doing things as quote unquote Democrat light, it's all exposed. And so they're going to do everything they can to prevent Ted Cruz from becoming president. I think it's going to be hard for them, though, because the American people are awaking not only to who Ted Cruz is, but to what's going on in our country. And they see that the Republican establishment is not suited for our times. They're of an old time, and you can't do politics the way they did it, you know, over the last couple of decades. We need new leadership that is unafraid. And I think that Ted Cruz has demonstrated that he understands those who would dominate us, and he's prepared to deal with them with determination.
Well, you know, for everybody that's listening, you know, there again, Ted Cruz will be here in person on Monday. So if they want to do an RSVP, is there some way that they can get in touch with y'all?
If you go to the Cruz website, just tedcruz.org, there's a list of every stop on this bus tour. You just look for Chattanooga. It's a quick little easy link. All you do is put your name and phone number and address in there, and boom, you're in.
Good. So I know that I myself am going to be there bright and early, and probably stay for the entire visit. Just not only to meet Mr. Cruz, but to be able to talk with the other people that show up. You know, it's always nice to know who your fellow patriots are.
Exactly. And on that note, Greg, I can say this has been a very satisfying journey to come together now to realize where the Cruz support is all across the country, and to see like-minded people who share values, share concern for the country, and who have a belief that Ted Cruz is the best suited presidential candidate for where America is today, and to know that you're all pulling in the same direction. I mean, it's really exciting to be going through this process. And it's an excitement that we can share in a very dangerous time. So I don't say it lightly, but it's excitement because it gives us hope.
And right now we need hope. Not necessarily so much hope and change, but we do definitely need hope.
You're exactly right. Okay. I'll look forward to seeing you there, Greg, on Monday.
Okay. And so there again, Monday, 8:30 to 10 o'clock to meet with Ted Cruz. For more information, just go to tedcruz.org for more information. Thank you for calling.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Well, there again, this is something that I'm very excited about. And I'm excited for a number of reasons. I mean, you know, first off, we need people that are going to stand up for us, stand up for Americans. Too many politicians are putting Americans second, third, even fourth in hierarchy. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have children. They say that 1 in 5 children here in America goes to bed hungry. Now, I don't know where they got that number from. Personally, I think that number is a little high, but as long as we have one single American child going to bed hungry, we don't need to be sending one thin dime to another country. When we've got 94 million people out of work, we don't need to be letting one single person coming into this country legally or especially illegally to take what few jobs there are away from them. And I mean, it's that simple. You have to take care of your own first. Charity begins at home. America is a very generous country. We've shown that time and time and time again. We have fought 2 different world wars for other people. We've sent responses to nations left and right and never asked anything in return. It's time for some of that to come home to us. And we need people like Ted Cruz and some of the other current stock of young Turks that the Republican Party is getting to take that lead and to run with it and to bring us back. The problem is right now we've got too many people like John Boehner and Mitch McConnell standing in the way. They are the old guard, and they're too concerned with their own power and their own finances to do what's right for the country. That's why it's more imperative than ever that we get a whole different group of people into government. You know, one of the people running right now is Lindsey Graham. He's part of the old guard. We don't need people like Lindsey Graham. And you may not agree with some of the other young Turks like Rand Paul or Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz for that matter. But you cannot doubt that their number one aim is to make America great again. Because, folks, if America is not great, if America is not strong, we can't help out these other countries. Especially when a lot of those other countries are too busy trying to stab us in the back. You know, one of the things that came up during the debates was when they were trying to say to Donald Trump, you say if Mexico is letting all these people come in. How do you prove that? How do you prove that? Well, it's not like you're going to get a statement from Mexico saying, we're trying to invade your country. That would be an act of war. But the fact of the matter is that right now, 1/5 of the entire population of Mexico is in the United States. 1/4 of the population of Central America is in the United States. Honduras, Nicaragua, these other countries. I mean, it's ridiculous. And folks, here's the thing. Here's how you prove Mexico is involved as a nation. They have 2 different borders. Now, they might not be able to patrol the entire U.S.-Mexico border, which is 3,000 miles long. But you know what? Their other border at the south end of Mexico is only about 300 miles long. But yet we have literally hundreds of thousands of illegals crossing the Mexican border, going the entire length of Mexico, and then crossing a second border to come to the United States. And Mexico is literally doing nothing to stop them. In fact, what Mexico is doing is horrendously taking advantage of these people. They say there's not hardly any women they come up from South America or Central America, they're not sexually abused while in Mexico. They have to pay guides and coyotes, as they call them, to be able to get through Mexico. They ride the trains in Mexico. You see pictures of the cargo trains, the freight trains, with people hovering all over them to be able to try to get up here. Mexico knows that. They do nothing to try to stop them. In fact, what Mexico as a country does is they actually hand out pamphlets telling people the best places to try to cross the border, the best times to try to cross the borders, and what to say and what to do when you cross the border to be able to take advantage of the American system. Yes, Mexico is a huge part of this. Otherwise, if they weren't standing to gain from it, they would be shutting down those borders. Meanwhile, what's our own government do? Border Patrol agents in Texas. It's amazing how much of this show revolves around Texas just by sheer happenstance. Have been ordered by President Obama to work with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to release any illegal immigrants they catch while they're still in America. The illegal immigrants are tagged with GPS trackers and then transported and released in public spaces like churches and bus stations. Well, the National Border Patrol Council Vice President, which is the union that represents the 17,000 Border Patrol agents, were asked by guidance by agents in Texas, who then went public with the new program on Tuesday, this last Tuesday. And they said the National Border Patrol Council reminds agents that we do not work for or fall under the chain of command of ICE. If you were ordered to release illegal aliens under any conditions, immediately notify your chain of command. Obama is allowing this to happen even though he knows that many illegal immigrants wind up committing horrible crimes like murder and rape. But the president cares more about pushing forward his far-left agenda than he does about protecting the lives of American men, women, and children. Again, putting Americans last. That's the hope and change that we got from Obama. We lost all hope and he took all our change. And that is the very reason why we need people like Ted Cruz in office. Well, that's today's show. Keep in mind, Monday from 8:30 to 10, sausage and biscuit breakfast with Ted Cruz. See you there, folks. Have a good weekend.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
New